You remember, maybe, one dream a week. Fragmented, nonsensical. You tell it to someone over coffee, they nod politely, and you both agree it was weird. Then you forget it. But for most of human history, dreams weren't weird. They weren't entertainment. They were information processed, shared, and acted upon. Your ancestors remembered their dreams because they needed to. And they needed to because their lives depended on it. In your previous video, we covered the architecture. First sleep, second sleep, the waking interval in between. But here's what we didn't ask. What was happening inside that sleep? When you sleep in one compressed 8-hour block, which remember is only about 150 years old, you experience REM sleep in roughly 90-minute cycles. But the density of REM changes across the night. It clusters heavily in the final hours before waking. Now imagine you're a pre-light human. You sleep from 9 p.m. to midnight, wake for an hour, sleep again from 1 a.m. to dawn. That first sleep block, deep, slow-wave sleep, physical restoration. But that second sleep, it aligns almost perfectly with the pre-dawn REM surge. You're sleeping through the most dream-intensive phase of the night, then waking directly into morning. No alarm clock, no snooze button, no jarring interruption. The result? Dream recall was higher, much higher. Anthropologist Roger Ivar Lohman studied the Asabano people of Papua New Guinea, who still practice traditional sleep without artificial light. They report vivid, detailed dreams nightly, and they consider dream forgetting a kind of negligence. We didn't evolve to sleep through our dreams. We evolved to surface from them. So what did they dream about? Not flying, not showing up naked to a meeting. Those are modern anxieties projected onto ancient hardware. When anthropologists collect dream reports from hunter-gatherer and small-scale agricultural societies, the content is strikingly consistent and strikingly practical. Animals, predators, the movement of prey, the location of water, social conflict, betrayals, alliances, disputes, often involving people the dreamer will see that morning. The dead. Not as ghosts, but as informants warning, advising, confirming decisions. Environmental threats, floods, fires, storms, collapses. In other words, the same things they worried about while awake, but processed differently. The anthropologist Tanya Luhrmann has argued that dreams in these cultures function as a kind of nighttime cognition, not separate from waking thought, but continuous with it. The Asabano use dreams to locate game, predict weather, and diagnose illness. The Maya historically treated dreams as direct communications from ancestors. The Iroquois held formal dream-sharing councils, where community decisions were influenced by nocturnal visions. This wasn't mysticism. It was distributed intelligence processing. A single mind, offline, running simulations, then reporting back to the group at dawn. But the content of dreams is only half the story. The texture matters too. And pre-light dreams felt different because pre-light nights were different. Sound, no white noise, no silence. Your auditory world was layered. The fire's constant crackle and pop. The breathing of 3 to 6 people in the same space. The wind against thatch or hide. Animals moving outside. Insects. Distant calls. Research on dream sensory modalities shows that ambient sound penetrates dream content directly, but not as literal replication. It becomes transformed. The fire crackle becomes a voice. The wind becomes movement. The animal call becomes a warning. Pre-light dreams were likely more auditory, more spatial, more narrative-driven than ours. Less visual abstraction, more locatedness. You dreamt somewhere specific. Because your sleeping body was somewhere specific, surrounded by specific sounds. Temperature. Fires die. You wake cold, or you dream of cold, of seeking warmth, of exposure, of the fire going out. The thermal fluctuation of a pre-light night wasn't discomfort. It was information woven into dream logic. Light, not darkness. Gradient. Moonlight through gaps in the roof. Starlight. Ember glow. Your eyes weren't sealed in lightless boxes. They received just enough photon input to keep visual processing active, producing dreams with luminosity, with shadow, with depth, smell, smoke, bodies, animals, earth. The olfactory bulb has direct highway access to the limbic system emotion, memory, threat detection. Pre-light dreams likely carried stronger emotional tagging because the nose never slept in a sanitized room. We didn't just lose dream recall when we invented the modern bedroom. We lost a sensory ecosystem that shaped what dreams felt like. But there's one more thing that happened in that interval between first and second sleep. And this is where it gets interesting for you. The state between waking and sleeping, what the French called dorveil, twixt sleep and wake, is now recognized by neuroscientists as hypnagogia. It's characterized by fluid associative thinking, vivid imagery, reduced logical censorship, and heightened pattern recognition. Your prefrontal cortex, the inner critic, goes quiet. Your visual cortex lights up. Ideas connect that shouldn't connect. Thomas Edison knew this. He'd nap sitting up, holding steel bearings in his hands. When he drifted into sleep, the bearings would drop, wake him, and he'd capture whatever idea was there. Salvador Dali used the same trick with keys. Mary Shelley conceived Frankenstein during a waking dream on a stormy night. Robert Louis Stevenson claimed Jekyll and Hyde emerged from a hypnagogic episode. But here's the thing. These were hacks. Clever, deliberate attempts to reconstruct a state that pre-light humans experienced naturally, every single night. The interval between first and second sleep wasn't dead time. It was a cognitive transition zone, and they spent it in exactly the mental state that modern creativity researchers now try to engineer with naps, float tanks, and biofeedback. They didn't need a technique. They had biology. So what happened? Compression happened. Artificial light pushed bedtime later. Industrial schedules demanded fixed wake times. The two-sleep architecture collapsed into one. The pre-dawn REM surge now gets alarm clocked. You're ripped out of your most dream-intensive sleep by a sound you didn't evolve to hear. The result, dream amnesia, became the norm. Not because you don't dream, you do, roughly 4 to 6 times per night, but because you wake at the wrong phase, in the wrong way. Your brain dumps the content before it reaches conscious recall. And then we did something worse. We devalued what remained. Freud pathologized dreams. Then neuroscience dismissed them as random neuronal noise. Then we medicated anything that interrupted our 8-hour block. We didn't just lose dream access. We lost dream culture, the morning practice of sharing, interpreting, and integrating. The vocabulary, the social expectation that your night mind had something to contribute. Your ancestors treated dreams as cognitive artifacts, tools, shaped by evolution, refined by culture, deployed for survival. We treat them as mental lint. I'm not suggesting you blow out your lights and start a dream-sharing circle with your roommates. But the next time you wake at 3 a.m., and you will, because that pattern is still in your DNA, consider this. Your body isn't broken. It's offering you a window into a state of consciousness that your ancestors used to solve problems, navigate social complexity, and process the sensory world. A state that modern creativity researchers are now desperately trying to reverse engineer with gadgets and protocols. You already have the hardware. You just stripped away the conditions that let it run. The question isn't, how do I sleep through the night? The question is, what would you dream if you let yourself remember?